of America. We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Cedric Richmond, top advisor to Kamala Harris, used to be top advisor to Joe Biden in the White House, basically telling people at Howard University, where Vice President Kamala Harris was going to have her celebration party, theoretically, that Kamala Harris is not going to come out tonight. She will come out tomorrow and address the nation, which I guess is what we could expect, given the fact that we're not going to know definitively this evening the results.
Been to Howard University when there's a big crowd, that is not the sound of a big crowd there. That is not celebratory mood, and I think that was a tough kind of coming out conversation for Cedric Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 2024 version of the Javits Center at this time. I'm not saying that it's going to end that way, but at this time, it's feeling like it's too early, and the senior person comes out and says, everybody go home and we'll see what happens. And we will see what happens when we get the rest of the votes. But
in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing.
Right.
And this very much felt, I mean, you know, we talked before about whether this felt more like 2020 or 2016. This felt so much like the Javits Center, and specifically her campaign chairman, John Podesta, came out at almost exactly this same point 8 years ago and made almost exactly that same speech. And the next day, Hillary Clinton came out and conceded. Now, again, he is not at 270 yet. She has not lost this race, but you don't have to be a weatherman.
Right. And just to go over where we are right now, so there are 7 battleground states, and we have called, CNN has called, projected that Donald Trump will win 2 of them, North Carolina and Georgia. So of the 5 that are remaining, there's Arizona. Trump is in the lead currently with 0.72% of the vote. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is in the lead with 2.6% of the vote. Wisconsin, Donald Trump is in the lead by 3.53% of the vote. And then there's Michigan. Donald Trump is in the lead with 6.12% of the vote. There's also Nevada, which I don't see on that list there, and I haven't committed it to memory, but there wasn't enough really percentage of the vote that had come in yet for us to be definitively saying anything. In any case, the point I'm trying to make is, of the 5 battleground states that are outstanding, Donald Trump is currently in the lead in all 5 of them.
And in a place like Nevada, the demographics are something that is more favorable to them. That's an electorate that has more male voters, more Latino voters, and those are 2 groups we're seeing who are leaning towards him.
And I just want to go back to, even though we don't know where the blue wall states are yet, we're still waiting for votes to come in, some of the underlying themes that we are seeing that, Audie, you were talking about a little while ago, that I think it's important to go back to. One of the things that we started out the evening with was about the women, the question about whether or not women were going to come out for Kamala Harris, right, whether or not men were going to come out for Kamala Harris in a post-Roe world on that issue. And if you just look at, for example, suburban women, they, according to the national polls, they went for Trump.
It seems like abortion was not the animating issue it was the way it was right after the Dobbs ruling. In so many of these exit polls, I'm seeing that the economy, the people who were most upset, listed themselves as angry or facing severe hardship. Those are the people who really went for Trump.
Yeah, I have to confess that I always thought in the last week or 2 of the campaign, this idea of the trying to appeal to secret voters was something of a risk. Anderson?
Jake, thanks very much. This is the first time we've all talked. David Axelrod, What do you make of what we've seen?
Look, I think that this was a race that was very, very close in the polling. And for the longest time, including up until last night, I and others said we had notions, we had feelings, but we weren't going to make any predictions. And the truth is, we're sitting here tonight and we're waiting for the 3 states that can determine the race one way or the other to render a verdict, and they're close. And she's right to wait to have those votes counted. But what was very clear watching the night unfold is that rural areas voted for her in significantly less numbers than, or percentage-wise, than they did for Joe Biden 4 years ago. And she could make up the difference in some of these suburban areas and the cities. And I think the discussion that John King had was very pertinent. I care deeply, more than I can say tonight, about democracy and what it means. I've said it a million times, I'm the son of a refugee, and I revere this country, and I'm so grateful for what it's given my family and everyone else. But part of democracy, and this is my major difference with Donald Trump, part of a democracy is to honor the will of the people, to honor its institutions. And I imagine that that's what the vice president's going to do when the final verdict comes in, if it's not a positive verdict. And I think there is a message in that. Yeah. There is a message in that. And I think it's an important message.
I think the reality is Kamala Harris faced tremendous headwinds heading into this. I was riding on a bit of a vibe, in a sense, in the final stretch, because she did feel like she had energy, but the fundamentals have been against her from the outset. Biden's unpopularity was dragging her. She had opportunities to create distance with him, and I think chose not to. I think it's a respectful thing. You don't want to throw your boss under the bus. But the reality is Donald Trump was going to blow Joe Biden out of the water, and she needed to create that distance. There's also just some fundamental shifts that I think are happening, a realignment with the parties and within the country, and I think we need to be more in tune with them. This could end up being the most diverse coalition that ends up possibly electing Donald Trump, and we need to hear about why that is. It's the issues of the economy.
I mean, the way this is playing out tonight, right? I think we need to recognize that over half of America feels very strongly about the things that Donald Trump feels strongly about, right? A secure border, the economy, crime. It might not be a perfect messenger, but the message resonates. And what we talked about this earlier about the check engine light, all those things are real. Democracy is a luxury when you can't pay your bills. And I think, there are a great deal of Americans tonight who are sitting back and saying, kind of looking at everyone, that they view as the elite and kind of sneering and saying, we told you so. We're not garbage. We're hardworking people. We believe in these things, right? People don't like to be talked down to. This coalition, this is Hispanics. Trump is crushing in Hispanics, the Hispanic vote in Pennsylvania, right? He's getting 50% of the women vote.
Lehigh County, he's up from 2020. He was at 45%. He's now at 48%.
Yeah, Allentown is, we were talking about how, the Puerto Ricans would come out. He's winning those votes because you know what those people care about? They care about security. They care about economy. They care about those things around the kitchen table. So if the former president is going to be the next president, I think there's a lot of, America's going to have to sit back. He's going to win. Looks like he may win the popular vote, right? There's going to be a reckoning in America that people are going to have to sit back and say, maybe some of these things Trump's espousing are not crazy. Maybe he's right? Maybe the Democratic Party needs to come back to the center if they want to be competitive again. There's going to be a part where they're going to say, we need to go further to the left.
Ben?
I hear what you're saying. And I do see it differently because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite who are hurting tonight. There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they're facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight. If you're a parent of a trans kid, your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. There are going to be people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. And they're terrified tonight. And so it's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare. And those people didn't deserve to be respected and held and talked to. Those are the people who are going to pay the price for whatever Donald Trump decides to do.
Yeah, but Van, how do we know that those people didn't vote? A large portion of those people aren't part of the people that elected Donald Trump.
Well,
right? I think that's a good part of the electorate. And the black women, the party, the Democratic Party, let those black women down. Not Donald Trump.
Dave,
we got to go.
Okay.
Let's go back to Jake.
All right. Thanks so much. And we're going to bring you a key race alert right now. Let's check in with the states that we have not projected. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still in the lead there. 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 216,000 vote lead there with 92% of the estimated vote coming in from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Michigan now, the Wolverine state. Donald Trump, 52% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 203,000 vote lead with 61% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, that's the Badger state. Donald Trump, 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.3% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 110,000 vote lead with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 12,242 vote lead there, a little bit more narrow with 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. We are awaiting more votes from the outstanding presidential battlegrounds as this race goes into the night shift. And we expect to hear Donald Trump speak to his supporters very soon. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay here.
Yooyyaa daawwattoota keenya irreen Oromiyaa Miidiyaa Neetwork isin ta'uu keessan yoomillee qalbiidhaa isin baduun qabu ammallee miidiyaa keessan kana itti ufsiisuuf wabiin isinuma ta'uu ni hubattu jennee amanna. OMN maallaqaan tumsuuf filannoo harka keessan jiru keessaa tokko isin yaadachiisuu feena. Karaa PayPal OMN maallaqaan tumsuun filannoo keessan isa salphaadha. Kutaa addunyaa kamiyyuu kan jiraattan kana gochuu dandeessu. Yeroo daqiiqaa lama hin caalle keessatti karaa PayPal OMN'if maallaqa erguu dandeessu. Adeemsan isinitti himu kana hordofaa. Jalqaba Facebookii OMN dhaqaatii hidha yookiin liinkii PayPal jettu tuqaasa. Donate Oromiyaa Miidiyaa Neetwork kan jedhu gaditti hamma maallaqa arjoomuu feetanii galcha. Ittaan saatii make this on monthly basis sanduqa jedhu cuqaasa. Amma immoo imeelii fi paaswordii akkaawuntii PayPal keessanii bakka isin gaafatutti waan isin gaafatu guutaatii gumaacha. Yoo PayPal akkaawuntii qabaachuu baattan immoo amma kana uummachuu dandeessu. Tarkaanfii hanga maallaqa gumaachuu feetanii isin gaafatu sanarra yoo geessan donate with credit card bakka jettu cuqaasa. Biyya jirtan lakkoofsa kaardii keessanii fi eenyummaa keessan dabalatee odeeffannoo garaagaraa isin gaafatu guuta. Fiixee dhumaa guca kanaatirra saanduqa lamaan cuqaasa. Dhumar agree and donate jedhee haga maallaqa gumaachitan bakka mul'isu cuqaasa. Amma Oromiyaa Miidiyaa Neetworkiif arjoomtanii jirtu. Ji'aan arjoomuufis waadaa galtanii jirtu. Miidiyaa keessaniif irree ta'uun uummata keessaniif sagalee waan taataniif ulfaadhaa.
Wiirtuu dhugukuru humna Oromoota hunda haadhugamoota gootaan ijaaramte hayyuun gulaalamte haqaaf gurra laatte sabni si jaalate dhugaa gurra laatte sabni si jaalate haqaaf gurra laatte sabni si jaalate dhugaa gurra laatte sabni si jaalate. Birmata sena aduka moti dinan sakalamte naftu karati biya alaf kesa komoko jabe fadura sa kapso kan keti Hajabu hamile gabroon fataa marti. Si oggoruuf jedhee diinni ciniinnatu hin danda'u yoom galman ga'u. Shiiraaf mankaraaran saffisa imalus gaaran bahu. Birmattuu yoo rakkoo sagalee sabaatii ati. Dhugaa keenya dhoksuuf diinni amoomatti tamsaasni keechitee nafuu humna qabnu sideeffanna nuti. OMN 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 OMN
Yooyyaa daawwattoota keenya. Irreen Oromiyaa Miidiyaa Neetwork isin ta'uu keessan yoomillee qalbiidhaa isin baduun qabu. Ammallee miidiyaa keessan kana itti ufsiisuuf wabiin isinuma ta'uu ni hubattu jennee amanna. OMN maallaqaan tumsuuf filannoo harka keessan jiru keessaa tokko isin yaadachiisuu feena. Karaa PayPal OMN maallaqaan tumsuun filannoo keessan isa salphaadha. Kutaa addunyaa kamiyyuu kan jiraattan kana gochuu dandeessu. Yeroo daqiiqaa lama hin caalle keessatti karaa PayPal OMN'if maallaqa erguu dandeessu. Adeemsan isinitti mukan hordofaa. Jalqaba Facebookii OMN dhaqaatii hidha yookiin liinkii PayPal jettu cuqaasa. Donate Oromiyaa Miidiyaa Neetwork kan jedhu gaditti hamma maallaqa arjoomuu feetanii galcha. Ittaan saatii make this on monthly basis sanduqa jedhu cuqaasa. Amma immoo imeelii fi paaswordii akkaawuntii PayPal keessanii bakka isin gaafatutti waan isin gaafatu guutaatii gumaacha. Yoo PayPal akkaawuntii qabaachuu baattan immoo amma kana uummachuu dandeessu. Tarkaanfii hanga maallaqa gumaachuu feetanii isin gaafatu sanarra yoo geessan donate with credit card bakka jettu cuqaasa. Biyya jirtan lakkoofsa kaardii keessanii fi eenyummaa keessan dabalatee odeeffannoo garaagaraa isin gaafatu guuta. Fiixee dhumaa guca kanaatirra saanduqa lamaan cuqaasa. Dhumar agree and donate jedhee haga maallaqa gumaachitan bakka mul'isu cuqaasa. Amma Oromiyaa Miidiyaa Neetworkiif arjoomtanii jirtu. Ji'aan arjoomuufis waadaa galtanii jirtu. Miidiyaa keessaniif irree ta'uun uummata keessaniif sagalee waan taataniif ulfaadhaa.
have not been called. But he did not say we see a viable path to victory. He said we want all the votes to be counted. And so you look here at 51%. Again, one of the big questions was, could Donald Trump get over 50? In most of these battleground states in 2016 and 2020, he was a 47, he was a 48, maybe he was a 49. In Pennsylvania right now, Donald Trump is at 51.1. And again, you're looking at a state, the vice president simply, there's a lot of states to count still, but if you want to look at one question, she cannot lose Pennsylvania. She just cannot. The math doesn't work if she does. So you're looking, yes, there are still some votes down to be counted down here. I think when we get closer to 100% in Philadelphia, that's going to settle the math once and for all. It's improbable at the moment. Let's just be honest about it, but it's not impossible. So you keep it on the board right there and you look 78% though, 78% estimated in Philadelphia. She's at 78%. Look at the 484. You come back here, 78% to 81%. 3 points in the state's largest city that is absolutely fundamental to Democratic victory, underperforming Joe Biden by 3 percentage points. And at the moment, more than 100,000 votes. We're not done with the math yet. That's it. I mean, you can find other places too. You can find, we looked through some of the blue collar counties earlier where she was underperforming Biden and Trump was moving up. We can come back and look at that again if you want. Just Trump outperforming 2020 by 3% or more. This is significant. It's happening mostly in counties he's winning anyway. But she's overperformed a little bit in Chester County down there, which, again, 8-10 years ago was a Republican county. But where is in Bucks County, which he's right at it's currently flipped to red. But a lot of it's out here in places where Donald Trump already runs strong. He's running stronger. And that's critical. One of the questions coming into the campaign was, well, Donald Trump got 2016 phenomenon, more votes in 2020, but he lost. Are there really more Trump voters out there? Well, yes, apparently there are. And you see them right there, and you see them in other states as well. So there's Pennsylvania. Jake, I just want to go through these quickly to see if the math has changed. 63%. We've been stuck there for a little bit. You come down here. Again, when you're looking at 224,000 votes, Joe Biden won Michigan by 154,000 votes. Donald Trump's at 224,000 votes. And so you're looking and you're saying, where? Where? Is it possible? Well, the only place you can get that many votes is Wayne County. They're at 24%. So you see, she's at 58% right there. Donald Trump at 39%. Again, you want the conversation that is going to start once these states are called, assuming we stay on the trajectory we are on, which the trajectory we are on, not there, we're not the finish line, but the trajectory we are on is an overwhelming Donald Trump victory in the Electoral College. The possibility of flipping back all 3 blue wall states. But even if he loses Michigan, look at that. That's going to be a conversation in the Democratic Party. How's that happening? How is Donald Trump getting 30% in up to 39%? How's that happen? How did he get 30%? The Democrats were already debating how did he get 30% 4 years ago. If that number holds and Donald Trump's above 35%, close to 40% in Wayne County, Michigan, the Democratic Party has a big conversation on its hand. When I started doing this a very long time ago, it was about the Reagan Democrats in Macomb County. Now it's going to be about the Trump Democrats everywhere. Including black men in Wayne County. There'll be people saying it's the Arab American vote. Young voters didn't come out. The analysis will start as soon as we're done getting someone to 270. But that's a huge problem. And you see it again here. Again, the foundation of the Democratic Party is urban America and then the close-in suburbs. That's where the math is. And that has allowed Democrats, allowed Joe Biden to withstand all of that. Donald Trump's phenomenon in rural America, where he's not only winning those counties, but the math is up. And this time again, he turned out more voters. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Milwaukee County, the city and the suburbs around it. But the vice president's at 66%. That looks impressive, except when you go back 4 years ago and you see the president of the United States was at 69%. And so in place after place, especially starting in the foundations, Anderson, the building blocks of the Democratic Party, which is urban America, she's having a problem. We're not done with all the vote counting yet, but she's underperforming President Biden from 4 years ago. In the close-in suburbs, you can find some exceptions to this, but in the close-in suburbs, she's doing reasonably well, reasonably close, exceeding it in some places. But Trump is doing better in urban America, a little bit better in some key suburbs in battleground states, and turning out even more voters in the red rural counties where we have seen the Trump phenomenon in 2016 and 2020. It's with us again in 2024.
Yeah. John, we'll come back to you. Caitlin Collins at Trump headquarters, where we expect the former president to speak soon. Caitlin, do we know, how soon he may get there and any idea on what he may say?
No, and no, Anderson. Obviously, we're waiting to see what this is going to look like because this is so new to the Trump campaign as well. They've been watching these numbers carefully all night as John King has been going back and forth on the magic wall, but they themselves obviously were waiting to see, were there any surprises in store? They were watching closely. The gut check of North Carolina and Georgia obviously came through for them. And now we are told Donald Trump is he is making preparations to head over here to the convention center. This is where the official watch party is. And Anderson, we saw aides preparing a teleprompter on stage, heightening the lectern and the microphone to make sure it's ready. So a clear sign that we do expect to hear from him. When that happens remains to be seen. And Kristen, obviously, as we've been looking at this, Trump is famously very superstitious. He doesn't like to, start planning things too far in advance, talking too much about who he'd put in a potential cabinet, much less working on a speech, which he said today he did not have remarks prepared.
And even the people around him were hesitant to put anything down. There were some conversations about potentially drafting something either way, drafting two versions of the speeches, but they were still hesitant to even do that. And a reminder that Donald Trump finished up his rally last night at 2:30 in the morning. When they got on the plane, there were some conversations about what tonight was going to look like, but essentially everybody was like, let's wait and see. Let's go and see. Now, I am told that when Donald Trump gets here, it's not clear if he's going to go to the stage right away. We know, obviously, they have called North Carolina and Georgia, which were big wins for the Trump campaign. Whether or not they're going to wait for one more of those big swing states remains to be seen. We do believe he's going to be here imminently, that he's going to leave Mar-a-Lago, head over here. We obviously know that they've bussed over all of the people from Mar-a-Lago who have just arrived here. We've seen this room fill out. But how exactly he's going to handle this moment remains to be seen. We know what happened, obviously, in 2020. I am told he's in a very different headspace now than he was at that point, probably because of the fact that they are telling him that he could win this.
Yeah, you could sense that today when he was voting at his polling place as well. He was talking in more reflective ways about the campaign. He was saying he believed it was one of the best campaigns they've ever run, talking about in terms of just pure messaging. I mean, obviously, some of his allies would have disagreed with the candidate himself on that front. But one thing about this room tonight, obviously, it's filled with his supporters who are here, who were invited by the campaign. A lot of his allies were also at Mar-a-Lago with him, people like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dana White. We've seen Senator Marco Rubio trickling in here. House Speaker Mike Johnson is also on the way. So it's also important to see who's going to be around him.
That's going to matter to Donald Trump a lot. It's going to matter to Donald Trump a lot who actually steps up and shows up here tonight, who left their races early before they were called or right after they were called to come to Palm Beach. And we were told that there were a lot of people considering doing that because of the fact that they know Donald Trump cares about loyalty. They were considering coming if it looked like the race was going the way that it currently looks like it's going. So we can likely expect more House members here that we've seen already.
Yeah, and we know family members obviously have been around him. We saw, I was told by someone that Barron Trump was with him in Mar-a-Lago earlier. Obviously, Melania Trump went and voted with him at their polling place just a few hours after y'all got back from Michigan from that early morning rally. Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, I think that's an open question. They do live down here, obviously, in South Florida, but they have not been prominent faces on the campaign trail.
And even during his trials, I mean, one thing to remember is that they came and saw him after he was convicted, but stayed behind closed doors at all times. They were up at Trump Tower. They never made an appearance with him. He has really done this campaign without any of their help. They've been with just Aaron.
Yeah, obviously, Kristen, thank you. Jake, back to you.
Thanks so much. We have a major projection in the battle for control of Congress. And CNN can now project that Republicans will win back control of the United States Senate. We can make this projection because CNN projects Republicans win the U.S. Senate seat in Nebraska. The GOP picking up enough seats to reclaim the majority that they lost 4 years ago. This is a huge victory for Donald Trump's party as we're still waiting the final outcome of the presidential race. And Dana Bash, there were a lot of questions in the air about what was going to happen. Ultimately, what happened with the U.S. Senate is what we generally thought was going to happen. Republicans now have control.
It was a very, very good map for Republicans this time around, and a very bad map for Democrats. One of the questions was whether or not these kind of brand name, long-serving Democrats would be able to kind of outperform the realities of their states, whether it's John Tester in Montana or Sherrod Brown in Ohio. And the answer is no.
Yeah, Sherrod Brown is a great example because he came to office in 2006 during a kind of blue wave, survived 2018. Like he was always there for when it was more favorable for Democrats, and that was not this year.
I mean, let's talk about the significance of a Republican Senate if, and I repeat, if Donald Trump is elected president. It means that they can confirm without any Democratic votes any appointment he makes to his cabinet, to the government, to the Supreme Court, should there be a vacancy. It's an enormous advantage to a president. And at this point, we haven't talked about it much, but in the House, although that hasn't been decided yet, the Republicans have flipped 3 Democratic seats. The Democrats haven't flipped a single Republican seat. So there is the possibility here of a complete united Republican government with Donald Trump as the president and with a Republican House and Senate, which means that in terms of appointments, in terms of immigration policy, economic policy, environmental policy, you name it, he could have a pretty blank check.
So, for example, on immigration policy, which is something that we think that Donald Trump would, if he wins, want to enact something along the lines of the proposals he's made. Republicans have said we passed an immigration bill, H.R. 2, which was a tough. It wasn't a compromise package. It was a tough immigration bill. At least. It was H.R. 2.
He's talking about the House. Sorry,
the House version is what I'm saying. The Senate version was bipartisan. The House version, when you ask Speaker Johnson, what have you accomplished? He said, well, we passed all this legislation, but it just died in the Senate because Chuck Schumer wouldn't even allow a vote on it, assuming that Republicans hold on to the House. We have no idea, but it's not crazy.
But you're getting into a level of detail that I think, I mean,
my point is just that
Donald Trump campaigned on mass deportations. So this
what I'm saying is he could do
was for.
That's what I'm saying. My point is whatever Donald Trump wants, if they have the Senate now, if they get the White House and if they get the House, if they keep the House, whatever Donald Trump wants will become law. There will not be the backstop of the Senate controlled by Democrats.
Did not want the backstop. This is what I'm trying to say. We may be looking at a map of voters who weren't looking to give him a backstop.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Not to get too sort of dorky here, but I think it is still possible, if he is president, that some big pieces of legislation could be stopped in the United States Senate, because legislation at this point still needs 60 votes. But it is the cabinet who he's going to have in his, not just in and around his administration, but again, the bench, that is all regular majority.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it, because the Supreme Court they ruled on the Chevron deference and basically said executive agencies can't have the untrammeled authority to do what they want. It has to be passed by Congress. And you could end up with the Democratic minority. I mean, again, all of this is somewhat speculative. Democratic minority in the Senate being able to block legislation, and the Trump agencies not able to enact it on their own.
Yep. Just one of many things that we would be talking about if Donald Trump does, in fact, win. We're not there yet. Jake, over to you.
Thanks, Dana. Let's bring you back to the key race alert and where we stand with the battleground states that we have not called yet. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.1%. Kamala Harris is 47.8%. Donald Trump has an almost 220,000 vote lead. That's with 93% of the estimated vote in from the great Keystone State. Michigan, Donald Trump up 52.4% to Harris's 45.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 244,000 vote lead in Michigan with 66% of the estimated vote in. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump 51.2%, Harris 47.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 120,000 vote lead with an estimated 89% of the vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead, 50% to Harris's 49.1%. Donald Trump has a 16,000 plus vote lead with an estimated 53% of the vote in from Arizona. In Nevada, Donald Trump in the lead there, 51% to Kamala Harris's 47.8%. 46.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 37,000 vote lead, with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. John King?
You're looking at the map, and we're watching, we're just trying to see. The only question really now is, well, the first question is, can the vice president win Pennsylvania? If she does not, Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. And then from there, if she wins Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still has other paths to 270. So for the vice president, your priority is here. And you'll notice all three of those states are red. That's the so-called blue wall. The blue wall is ruby red at the moment, not done counting the votes. So let's turn it off and wander through them, starting in your home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Key thing here, these are close battleground states. Look at the size of Donald Trump's lead as we go through them. All right, Joe Biden wins this by 80,000 and change 4 years ago. Donald Trump is ahead with 93% of the vote in by 219,000 votes plus. So that's hard to overcome when you're at 93%. And statewide so far, you're getting 48% if you round that up. Do the math at home. She has to get well in excess of that, hugely in excess of that when you're at 93% to have a chance to catch up. Hugely, way overperform where she has been throughout the night. Miracles happen. So you look here at Philadelphia, you kind of come here. This gets pretty stunning when you go through it county by county. We're not at the final results. Maybe the end will look a little better than this. Maybe the vice president can come back. But again, you look at here, Donald Trump getting 21% in Philadelphia, the vice president getting 78%. You go back when Joe Biden won the state, Donald Trump was at 18, the president was at 81. And you're seeing this over and over again. You go out to Bucks County here, Joe Biden at 52%. If you round that up, Trump at 47. 4 years ago, you come back here. I said early in the night, if this stays red, Donald Trump will win the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's still red. Not done, but it's still red. This is the blue-collar suburban area. Your cops, your firefighters move out of the city to get a little house with a patch of grass. It gets a little bit bigger out here when you move out, but look at this. It's just, she's at 48%, 49% if you round that up. The president of the United States was at 52. Again, it's a very competitive battleground county, but to win Pennsylvania, you want to be on the top end in Bucks County. And at the moment, the vice president is on the losing end. Then you move over here to Lehigh County. This was the big conversation, right? Both candidates there in the final days because of the Madison Square Garden event, the debate about is the Trump going to lose the Puerto Rican votes, other Latino votes because of this? Well, at the moment, Harris 95%, so not a lot of room for this to change. 51% for the vice president. She's winning the county, but she's not winning the county again. Look at Joe Biden. Now, this is Joe Biden's birth state. He had a home field advantage, maybe. It was in a pandemic. Donald Trump was at his weakest, I guess you come out of that. So you can rationalize it away, but we do the math here. And the math is that she's running behind. That's 53% for the president. And once again, the vice president. So there'll be a lot of conversations about blue-collar workers. Is it sexism? Is it racism? Is it because she didn't break with Biden on cost of living issues? This is going to be the conversation if this map continues. So you come back out again and you look. Here's a place. This is Trump country, Pennsylvania, Luzerne County, right? But you always look at sometimes the margins with it, where the other guy's winning or the other gal's winning. You just want to cut into their margins in a close battleground state. Donald Trump at 60, the vice president at 39%. And you come back here, Joe Biden at 42%. That's the difference. The margins within some of these places, even where you're losing, you have to improve your margins. Where you're winning, run them up. Where you're losing, try to cut the other guy's margins up. And she simply has failed to do that across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I could go on, but the point is the point. And then there's this. Again, in a big state like this, a complicated state like this, this is just Trump country. 70% here, 51% there, a little bit more competitive, but 75% there, 73% there. That's how he does it. And you have to combat that and contrast that. And even in those counties, again, in most of them, Harris not matching where the president was. So that's the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You look at the popular vote when you come on out. Again, Donald Trump lost the popular vote twice. Even when he won the presidency in 2016, he lost the popular vote. He lost it by more than 7 million votes 4 years ago. At the moment, a lot of votes to be counted. At the moment, he's 5 million votes ahead in the popular vote. And again, you know Donald Trump would like that trophy. In addition to winning 270 electoral votes, which he's not at yet, he's on a path to it. He's not there yet. He would love that trophy. We'll see if he gets it. Michigan, we're up to 67% now. This has been a slow walk. You're up to 67%. But again, 154,000 votes for the president 4 years ago. Donald Trump's lead is well in excess of that, 220.